Hey everybody. So I first wanted to thank you so much for spending some time with me. My name is Kirsten and I'll be taking you through my older adult oral video presentation. So for the purposes of this project, I chose to focus on an elder neighbor who lives in my community. Um, She's really more than just a neighbor to our family. Over the years, she actually has two grandchildren who live in her household that sometimes babysit for my kids. So she's really become almost an extension of our family. I've always had a pretty strong rapport with her. So doing this project has given me the opportunity to just learn a little bit more about her ideals and her history. So it's just been a really rewarding experience for me so far to get to know her a little bit better. So, the developmental stage that I chose to focus on for the purposes of this assignment was Erickson's stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. So, my interviewee is just really actively invested in her family and the community. She's focused on the well being of those around her, specifically her two grandchildren that live in the home. Um, She's 83 years old, so at face value, you might think that it would be more like an ending stage 8. I would argue that stage 7 feels much more appropriate for her life after interviewing her. I think this stage is lengthened a bit just because of the fact that she lives in a multi-generational living arrangement. So, as I said, she has currently two of her grandchildren still remain in home, and they are of teenage years. So, I think since she still has somewhat of an active involvement in child rearing, it's kind of extended that stage 7 a little bit longer than some individuals might see if they were just if they weren't as actively involved in caregiving of the next generation. So, because she lives in a multi-generational household, a lot of my research was focused around caregiving and custodial grandparents and kind of what those behaviors and the effects that that type of living has on adults in advanced age. So I learned that 1 in 10 grandparents will assume a caregiving role for a period of at least 6 months before their grandchildren turn 18 in the US today. So 1 in 10 elder adults are taking on a caregiving or custodial role for their grandkids. I would imagine with inflation and financials being the way that they are right now post pandemic, I would expect to see multi generational households becoming that much more prevalent and that number increasing in the years to come. She spoke many times during her interview about how being able to be actively involved in raising her grandkids and now even to an extent her great grandkids has just been a gift in her life. So I think that has really been a very important experience in her later years, just being so intimately involved with her grandkids and really just the day to day of them growing up. She really views as a treasured opportunity. She also mentioned quite a few times about avoiding the possibility of a home. She doesn't want to be put in a home. Um, because she has such a supportive and capable family, up till this point, it has given her the opportunity to avoid any type of supported living arrangement because she just has so much help and support within her household. Obviously, many folks within her cohort are struggling due to a raising dependency ratio. So I learned through my research that the US is becoming people are living longer and because of healthcare advances and lots of other factors. So, because people are living older, the strain on younger generations to care for older adults is becoming, more and more burdensome. So, somebody like my interviewee kind of um, alleviates the burden on her system and really, I think, personally ensures positive caregiving outcomes because it's coming directly from family. So research has suggested that strain on um, systems such as Medicaid and different levels of supportive employment like nursing homes are going to become very much more strained in the coming years due to the aging population. So I think that because she lives at home, it gives her the opportunity to not be impacted by a reduction in care because of that strain. Um, Living in her household and being integrated with her younger family members has kept her active in the household, the neighborhood, and ultimately the community. So she attends school functions, community functions at a much higher rate due to the affiliations that her grandkids have in sports and academic groups and things like that. So it keeps her really involved and active within her community. It's been a very rewarding experience for her to kind of see their achievements. She's avoided some of the loneliness that might be associated with older adulthood. So she's a widowed woman for quite a few years. She lives in a busy household, which has allowed her to kind of avoid some of that stagnation and loneliness that she might be experiencing otherwise. I mentioned she has had quite an active involvement in rearing her the two teenage grandkids that currently live with her. They actually have three kids altogether, and one has since moved out and had two children of her own. So my interviewee has had the opportunity to, for a short time after her granddaughter brought the babies home, move in, provide some light housekeeping, food preparation, helping assist with the baby, which has just really been a treasured experience for her. So, I mean, family is really, really important to this individual, and being around children and helping to raise them and be around them has really just enriched her life tremendously. Um, some challenges and accomplishments in the interviewee's life. Um, she's assisted in raising her three teenage and adult grandchildren, and to an extent, those couple of great grandchildren that I just mentioned. She contributes very highly to the household. She does most household tasks, including laundry, cooking, cleaning. She really helps out around the house, and I know that her efforts are invaluable to her household. Um, One major advantage is keeping her actively engaged in her family could really be a determining factor in her overall good physical and mental health. So, despite her age, having the associations within her house and just kind of the responsibilities within her house, a lot of my research found a strong correlation between just the activity levels associated with custodial and caregiving grandparents and higher and better health outcomes. One major disadvantage, and I think it kind of goes without saying, especially custodial grandparents aren't always given the opportunity to really slow down and relax in their elder years as much as an independent person not caring for younger people would be able to do. So, when folks are reaching, retirement age and things like that, if they're still actively in caregiving for younger folks, it really provides a hardship physically for them to be able to manage a household, potentially still work, and just is really a physical strain because of the demanding activity level that all of that requires. So I know, she hasn't really been able to slow down, but I think that disadvantage kind of goes back to the advantage. Since she hasn't slowed down, it has really kind of kept her healthy and vibrant. Um, One recent development is she's slowing down a little bit in the last few years. She started to less frequently attend outings with her family that would require strenuous activity. She mentioned during her interview just not wanting to not wanting to hinder their ability to experience activities because she doesn't want to slow them down. So I know physically she's kind of come into a bit of awareness around what she can and can't do, what she's capable of, and that sometimes keeps her home when her families go on short trips or outings. um, Crisis resolution. So, the crisis for this stage is adults unable to move successfully through this stage will become self absorbed, stagnated, unable to be productive for the sake of others. I think I've made it very clear up until now. She's very giving of her family and her community. She's very actively involved in her surroundings, and all of those things have allowed her to move through this crisis stage quite successfully. Biosocial factors. My interviewee doesn't possess she she doesn't possess the wealth that she feels she need to support herself in an equal manner if she were to live in her own. So she said during her interview, she doesn't have enough money to, nor would she have the need to live in a large house. And kind of maintain herself similarly if she didn't live with her younger relatives. So I think living in this multi-generational household has given the opportunity to maintain a sizable living space. She's maintained most of her possessions, didn't really have to downsize as much as if she were to maybe move into a nursing home or something like that. So all of this has really been important to her in recent years, keeping her belongings and keeping herself in a comfortable living environment. She served the role as a housewife for really her entire life. She kept home to raise her own children, then is now repeating the cycle within her adult child's household. She's had no formal post high school education, and she's never really held a job outside of the home within her adult years. So, um, she has, however, supported her grown daughter and her husband in being able to maintain the household and facilitating a two income opportunity. So, because she's lived in the house and managed a lot of the caregiving and household responsibilities, it's given her daughter and her daughter's husband the opportunity to both work out in the community, thus impacting their earning potential quite greatly. How has oppression shaped her life experience? So, because of her age, she's had quite a lot of life experience. My interviewee has lived through World War II, the information age, and everything that's followed. So, she has a tremendous amount of social, and she's experienced great political movements within her life. Um, I will, however, say that during my interview with her, her mentality and her ideas around some social topics, especially modern social topics like gender equality and things like that, just really reflect a much more simple time. So we got very lightly onto the topic of gender identification, and she was like, "Oh, honey, I don't understand any of that." So I think being her in her advanced age, sometimes the ideas of political correctness weren't always fully portrayed in the way that she answered, the way that she responded to some of my questions. Um, she's had a great opportunity to impact future generations, specifically that of her family, through her caregiving. And I know, as I've mentioned many times, that that's something that is very, very important to her. She's also impacted the financial success of her family by living in home and helping out with childcare and household responsibilities.